Mr. Litwicki, thanks so much for coming in today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Tucson recently launched a homeless to work program. Can you tell me a little bit about how it works?
Sure. So right now there are folks who are living in the various shelters, and we have El Rio Healthcare screening people the night before, and those who are interested in work we pick up in the morning. And we go out to various spots within the town and do basic cleanup and landscaping with about 6 people a day.
And where did the idea come from?
Well, the idea originated out of Albuquerque, and Albuquerque had started a program called A Better Way that their mayor had promoted, and it was to reduce panhandling. Richard Fimbres from Ward 5, councilman, looked at this as a model for Tucson, brought it back to Tucson, and we're using it as a combination of reducing panhandling and with the stated goal of getting people into permanent housing and out of shelter care.
And are there any other elements of the program? I mean, they're spending the day out in the streets cleaning up and working, and then I think that they are in shelters at night, correct?
Correct. And the way it works is that we have a driver who is a maintenance specialist that supervises the actual work. And along with him is a navigator from Catholic Community Services that assesses folks' needs and throughout the day seeks services that they may need and offers those services to them, so that at the end of the day, if somebody wanted to move into other housing, they could do it at the end of the day. If they wanted to seek longer-term employment through organizations like Primavera Works or through Pima County One Stop, then we would connect and take them to those services. So it's really designed to engage people in a way that's meaningful for them and meets their current daily needs, because they're paid the same day that they work, and also then introduce them kind of repetitively to other options besides shelter.
And we're in obviously the very early stages of the program right now, but how has it gone so far?
Well, you're right. They went out for the first day yesterday, and so far it's gone wonderfully. They have been working on traffic circles in some of the neighborhoods around town, and from the reports I've received, neighbors have come out to thank them for cleaning the area up. They pulled out about 11 trash bags that are about 35 pounds each yesterday in a 5-hour period. And they had no incidents. It was a really smooth operation. So you never know, first day you kind of cross your fingers.
You announced the program in November. How did the homeless community respond and react at that point?
You know, I think it's generated a lot of interest, and a number of folks have contacted us about, you know, trying to get work as if we were a work program, whereas we're really a homeless program that's doing the work. I think some of the confusion has been how they get in, and right now it's, you know, through the shelter process. Filling the first 6 slots was very easy. People are eager to work, and that's kind of the message we've received from the shelters, that people there, that if there's work available, people are very eager to do work if they're physically able to do it.
And of course, there are only slots for 6 people right now. Do you see an opportunity to expand that, to invite more people into the program?
Yes, we've received considerable support from the business community and from the city and from the county. And based on that, we hope to expand next year to 4 days a week. And we may be able to expand to more than 6 people at a time. The van right now, we have a 15-passenger van, but we weren't certain how much property people would have, because they have nowhere to store their things when they're in shelter, so they'll be bringing their things with them. So depending on the space in the van, we may be able to go up to 8 without a problem. The other thing is just getting it to more days. We're taking what Albuquerque had of around $50,000 to start, and because so many other agencies and organizations are donating their services, we were able to do a 6-month funding turn that into a 12-month funding. So I think we'll be able to go to the extra days. The other thing that is personally, I think, important is that we, in our next phase, start offering it to people who are on the streets and not just in shelter. What we have to work out is how do we screen people appropriately so that we're not putting someone in a situation of working that's not able to do the work. So it was a little bit safer and easier for us to start with the shelters, but it's our goal to then take those other 2 days and go to people who are right down the street. So you can see that kind of impact right in the street population.
You mentioned, of course, the sort of physicality of the work. Is there any option for people that maybe have physical limitations but really do want to work?
Currently, there isn't. Folks have to be able to do light landscaping type work. It's not very heavy work, but they have to be mobile and able to do light landscaping. One of the areas of interest, of course, has been to work with folks who have disabilities, physical disabilities, because physical disabilities is a really large, is actually growing. It's one of the areas growing within shelter care. Nationally, that went from about 40% to 45% in the last few years. So we don't have anything right now, but I would say it's definitely on the horizon to try and find other work. The other trick with that kind of work is that we want to make sure we're not displacing current work and labor in the community. We don't want to create jobs that take away other jobs. So we need to be sensitive to the fact that we're really creating new jobs.
So right now, this sort of cleaning and maintenance is just not happening.
Correct. It's just not happening on a regular basis. And if you go through town and see some of the traffic circles, you can see they're kind of overdue. So the city didn't have the funding for it and the ability to do it. And this is a way to really stretch that out, whereas it would have cost them a lot more to try and contract or do it themselves over that year.
You mentioned funding. For the first year of the program, I know the money is coming from both the city and the county. How about going forward? Will they continue to contribute? Are you looking to expand to other funding sources?
Well, we are looking to expand to other funding sources. Right now, like this Friday, we're going to meet with Walmart, which is going to provide a donation. We've received funding and are looking at the Tucson downtown merchants. Another area of sustainable funding will be the parking meters that are going in for folks to make donations. So if you're downtown, there'll be very distinct, not in a parking space, colored meters that folks can make a donation. And some of that is initial funding is going to be earmarked towards continuing this program. So I think our intention is, and I think it's feasible, is that from the actual business community that benefits in the downtown area especially, that will benefit from getting folks out of street homelessness, that those organizations will probably step up. And so far that seems as if they are.
There's a limit on the number of days people can participate in the program. Will that reduce its sort of long-term effectiveness in the community?
You know, we're not sure at this point in time. What we're doing right now is there is a limit, and it's a limit based on earnings. So if somebody, as a contract, casual labor earns over a certain amount, then there's paperwork that they'd have to do. With the difficulty of people having ID and such as that, we don't want to go over that limit to make things harder for them. So we've got, up about 12 times we can work with someone. What we're going to learn now, I think, is it better to spread out this across folks in shelter so that more people get the opportunity, or should we work with a smaller number of folks more aggressively and more often? And we're collecting information. One of what El Pueblo's donating to this project is the management and the evaluation. So we're going to be evaluating over the next 3 months if there's any correlation between the number of times someone works and them actually getting into either longer term employment or permanent housing. And then we'll adjust that as we go through the year. Albuquerque really didn't have that information. Their project was really based on reducing panhandling through the work. So they didn't really track the movement to permanent housing or to longer term employment. So this is going to be kind of new information that we should be able to adjust our work and our interactions based on that. And right now I just don't really know.
And lastly, what's next for the program?
What's next is what you were speaking about earlier, which is this idea of expanding and getting more days and reaching more people, and then being able to reach a more diverse population, and especially those who are on the streets. One of our challenges is going to be helping people who have pets, because what do they do with their pets when they're with us? So looking at maybe temporary pet adoptions. There's some programs that do that so that people can have someone helping them with their pet as they get into permanent housing and then they get their pet back. Or day locations in which there are kennels and places they can put their pets. Some of the biggest barriers right now to folks getting into shelter and then from there getting into permanent housing has been pets, has been that they're still using alcohol or drugs, or that they're with a partner that they don't want to separate from in that process. So, I think those are our challenges and areas that we'll have to work and bridge through. Homelessness has definitely decreased nationally. The one area that hasn't decreased, and it's kind of increased a little bit in the last couple of years, has been street homeless. And we've seen that nationally, we've seen that in Tucson. So the real next phase for us is to really make an impact on those folks who are on the streets in downtown and in the washes and other areas.
All right, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you for having me.